I'm here with one of our faculty advisors, Professor Ann McCants. She is Professor of History and Margaret McVicker Faculty Fellow at MIT, and she also directs the Concourse program, which integrates the study of the humanities into the science core that MIT is so well known for. And it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.
And it's a real pleasure for me as well, Nathan. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I wonder if we could, first of all, I mentioned Concourse, but I wonder if you could give a little bit more of a description of what Concourse is. Tell us about this program that you direct.
Happy to do so. So I'll actually start by saying that I am an economic historian, and I'm interested in the standard of living in particular, and how it has changed over time. So I'm an interdisciplinary scholar from the outset. And I have one foot in the humanities, I would say, and one foot very squarely in the social sciences. And of course, at MIT, they're lumped all together, right? So MIT is the only place on the planet where you can hear students speak casually, about their intro micro course as a humanities subject, right. A mistake that would never be made anywhere else. But that's an interesting place for me to come from. And I say that by way of background, because Concourse is, first of all, a program geared for first-year students. So it's called a first-year learning community. There are several of them at MIT. And our particular flavor, as you noted already, is to integrate the study of the humanities into the science core, because the science core is what, of course, the first-year curriculum is centered around for incoming MIT students. And it's interesting for me, as someone who's already in this kind of one foot into the humanities and one foot into social science, to then add on that layer of, sort of linking humanistic inquiry, right, into what is really the natural science core at MIT. So what do we do? Well, at a very practical level, we offer calculus, physics, chemistry, right? The first year science core curriculum. We have a humanities subject, which all of the students who participate in our program, typically about 50 a year, participate in, so that they have one common subject that is, could be a traditional humanistic inquiry subject in the regular curriculum. And then all of this is held together by a weekly seminar, which we hold on Fridays. And in normal times, it includes first the sharing of lunch together. And then we have some kind of a topic set for the day. And we proceed to spend an hour and a half after lunch, having a group conversation in which we try to ask, what we might think of as the big questions. So, what is an education? What is friendship? What is justice? What constitutes evidence, right? When do we find something persuasive? How do we use models, right? So really big, thoughtful questions that cover, in fact, the full range of our disciplinary expertise, because we're all in the room together, the physicist, the chemist, the political philosopher, myself as a historian, right? We're all there. We're all facilitating this conversation. And we try to pick up themes that are being broached and probed in the individual curricular subjects. So that's the intellectual idea. Now, of course, we have a space, we have a kitchen, normally, and So all the things that go with having a space and a kitchen in our own classroom, right? People are just together because where there is food lurking about at MIT, there are students, and there are, of course, also mice. We have a vast array of mouse habitats running, which is, of course, part of the fun as well. And what that means is that we bump into each other all week long, intermittently, accidentally, sometimes intentionally, and that means that conversations can continue. So that's what Concourse is.
So people just come to the space in their downtime. They'll use it as a study area.
Yes, and because they're taking many, if not all, of their first year, especially the first semester subjects, in and around that space, it's the natural place to go before class or after class. And I should also say that if you've been in Concourse and you're now a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, you don't stop being in Concourse. You stop taking the first year courses, obviously, you've passed them, but you're welcome in the space. We utilize these students as the TAs for our courses. They run program activities. We offer a number of what we call sort of continuing conversation seminars that are specifically geared to students who are no longer in the first year. So we have a reading group that meets on Friday afternoons and has, for a decade now, from 3 to 5 on Friday afternoons. That's sold out every semester, not the time period you would think. And we choose something to read, an important book or a set of plays or, what have you. This semester over Zoom, we're reading a number of Aristophanes' political plays together. And we're thinking about tyranny, which has been really interesting this spring.
Yeah. Was that was planned before events unfolded earlier this year?
No, I mean, it was planned in December and January.
Sure. Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, we choose topics. I mean, in the fall, we we actually spent a fair amount of time talking about plagues and pandemics and so forth, right? Because we chose that deliberately. So, it varies, from one year to the next. I mean, ironically, last spring, of course, not knowing what was going to happen, we had selected essays from Montaigne, which were actually perfect. It almost made me wonder if we had somehow caused the pandemic by selecting Montaigne as our reading.
I don't think so, but
but he was such a good guide.
Sure.
To thinking about the closing oneself in, and having to sort of really engage with your own thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say, I've said this to you before, this just sounds like such an amazing and important program to have at a place like MIT, which, contrary to its reputation, of course, it has humanities departments. It has a very strong humanities department. So it's not like this is the only thing.
No.
Bringing the humanities onto MIT's campus, but to be doing that in a shared space, over food with a community that gets built in that first year and then can persist. I did want to ask, under normal circumstances, I mean, what are the rhythms of the year like? I mean, how does that community evolve and grow under normal circumstances? And then I want to kind of talk a little bit about what's going on this year.
Well, remarkably, the rhythms are very much like the rhythms on the rest of a university campus.
Sure.
Which is to say, there's an amazing amount of sort of hustle in late August. There's just lots of energy, lots of activities, this big thing that we call orientation, of sort of whatever specificity it might entail, depending on where you are. Uh, and there's a kind of collective awkwardness because we're a first year program. We're getting not just a new set of students for us, but we're getting a new set of students entirely. And so the faculty are a little nervous. They don't know who we are yet. We can joke with each other, but they don't really know if we're kidding or not. And they don't know each other, and they don't quite know what to expect of us. So a lot of what we do in the first couple of weeks is, I think, very self-consciously ice-breaking. Hopefully not of the hokey kind, but maybe sometimes even of that. And, then I think students start to settle into a rhythm. And things reach some kind of a peak in mid-October when everybody has a little bit of a mid-semester, meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, at MIT, there is traditionally been a family weekend or a family and friends weekend, the very last weekend in October. And one of the things that I instituted when I came in as director in the fall of 2012, I guess it must have been, we utilized the Friday seminar of the family weekend to invite in members of the MIT chaplaincy. We
Oh.
usually invite in 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
We have some kind of a theme that we've worked out with them in advance, giving them some, input into that process as well. And typically there's a reading that, something provocative from the media, the mainstream media, that asks some kind of a question. I'm remembering one year we asked a question about the role of technology in our social lives. Right. And then the MIT chaplains who come, they join us for lunch. And of course, there are also some parents and family members and friends, who've come to visit their student over that weekend who also join us for lunch that day. And then we have essentially a panel discussion with, members of the chaplaincy. And that's always a high point for me because, for many students, there's that moment of, what? MIT has a chaplaincy? Who knew? Uh, and it's early enough still in the term that especially for students who are seeking some support from that kind of of course, broadly pluralistic office,
Sure.
uh, that can be revelatory at
Mhm.
perhaps a critical moment. And then there's some kind of November rebound, I feel, and then of course, once it's Thanksgiving, we try to do something celebratory as a community, but really everyone's gone into panic mode by that point, and we all just try to hold on into December,
Right.
right? So
Everyone's just trying to.
the rhythm is very much like the rhythm for everyone else.
Yeah.
It's just that we're doing it maybe a little more collectively.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.